Good morning or good afternoon, whatever time you guys are listening to us. Welcome back to another edition of the Layman's AI podcast. I am Adam,
My name is Brian.
and we want to welcome you guys to episode 20. I can't believe it's been 20 episodes already, Brian.
hmm
Where's the time gone?
20 weeks. It just kind of fades away.
It does kind of
But
fade away. Yeah.
I am kind of happy because I did do a little bit of research and pod fade typically sets in around now. But we're just
Oh, really?
yeah, pod fade, the people start to fade out or lose interest, but you know what? I feel like we're just getting started.
I do
So,
too. I'm enjoying this. I mean, it's not taking up a lot of our personal time, but we're still enjoying it. We're
hmm
finding nice topics. We're already excited about next week's topic, and we haven't even discussed
yes,
this week's topic yet.
exactly.
uh,
But yeah, speaking of episode 20, this is another fun one. I think we kind of discussed this. Every 10th episode, we decided that we're going to let AI write our outline for us,
hmm
just to kind of see what we can use for it. And I went through the workflow this week. I used Claude this time.
Nice.
They helped me write the outline. And so what I did, I started out by introducing myself to Claude in a new chat. And it kind of says, "Yeah, great to meet you. Oh, you're so great, awesome." Because they're triggered for the positive reinforcement, which is a good thing.
It works.
But yeah, I give them a link to my podcast, and it's like, "What would you like today?" And I actually have I started text files of all the episodes, our title, and our show notes and what have you. And I uploaded all those to it, and I'm like, "Here's the episode so far." And it says, "Oh, like, well, this is really nice, blah, blah, blah." Of course, more positive reinforcement, as we all love the positive reinforcement. And I'm like, "Come up with the next episode for me." And it brought one up with an outline. Well, not with an outline right away. I had to ask for it. And I asked, "What's the next episode?" It says, "Next episode idea that Claude came up with: AI in your doctor's office, how medicine is going digital." And this kind of,
Okay.
they kind of played this on our mental health two-parter, and kind of said, how is AI being used in the medical field? And I thought this was a good one because I'm sure it's a pretty common topic. People are kind of thinking, "Oh, is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing?" And the answer always is yes. Um, so I had to give us an outline, and now we have a good outline for us.
hmm I'm a little excited about this because it does take piggybacks a little bit off of the healthcare, and we have not directly talked about the AI's impact on healthcare. We've talked about it with mental
hmm
health, but we haven't talked about it
Yeah,
with healthcare and what we're
physical
seeing in our
health.
personal lives. We may have dropped hints here or there and mentioned a few
hmm
things, but tonight, because of the outline it provided us, I want to point out to our listeners, it provides an outline for us. It doesn't tell us exactly what to say, so there was a little bit of research that was done after the outline was created by Claude, and I did get to
hmm
see what Brian was talking about, and he did have to do some scaffolding to get it a little more specific, but nevertheless, it did a very
Yeah,
good job. I want to applaud Claude because I don't feel we give Claude
yeah,
enough credit for what it has done and consistency. It's a very good tool. It's a
yeah.
very good tool.
Yeah. Claude's sort of known but unknown, but doesn't try to like one up you with marketing and the pizzazz or whatever. It
Yeah.
just stays steady and does what it's supposed to do, and that's what I've always liked about Claude, and it's a good one. So, but anyway, yeah. So AI in the healthcare industry, and this is physical health. So basically, we're going to kind of go over a few things, kind of give our thoughts on everything.
Mhm.
And sort of, starting off here, you've already encountered AI in the
Right.
medical field if you didn't know about that already. One of the things is AI in appointment scheduling. And kind of communicating with the patients and everything. And this is kind of where I think they're starting to realize, you have your age, you have your gender, you have your past medical um, sort of situations or diagnoses. That's the word. I'm a little tired tonight, so I apologize for that. But you have all these kind of patterns that you have, and men that have turned 40, like you and I have, we have a different kind of outlook on our health than when we were 20. That
Yes, we certainly pay more attention to
yeah,
it now than we did when we were
yes.
20. Yes, that is much more accurate. Yes.
Yes, and sort of now, we have, different doctor schedules and everything like that. And,
Hmm.
I think if you can keep it private and between you and your doctor, I kind of like this idea because it kind of keeps up on, when you're supposed to come to the doctor. Like I said, if you have a pre-existing condition or you had, some sort of sickness when you were younger, I can't give any specific examples right now. That can come back to you later in life and you have to
Yes.
start getting like certain things checked out later in life. And that's kind of, where sometimes you forget to tell a doctor something. We're all guilty of that. But if your doctor punches it into your own personal AI and what have you, now you have that whole thing ready to go for you. So I think that could be a good thing just to kind of keep you up to date on everything.
There's definitely some advantages of that. I do know AI with appointment scheduling and patient communication. I am well aware it's not just in the healthcare industry.
Hmm.
There's also other industries that are using this now. And basically, what we're talking about, for those of you that are not aware, there are AI systems that can schedule you regularly and move appointments based on your schedule or based on what other patients are coming in. So, if there's somebody a little more critical to the business that's coming in or has a more of a
Hmm.
critical health issue, they can reschedule you in a time that fits and still make sure you're within the window that you should be within. It's a really unique scheduling feature. The only thing I wish they would consider is how many reminders does a patient need that they have an upcoming appointment? Because for my children in particular, the amount of messages I get that are automated is insane. I confirm several times that yes, they are coming. They will be there for the orthodontist. They
Hmm.
will be there.
Yes.
I've said it
Yeah.
3 times already. That's a
Oh well, yeah, it kind of like reminds me of this Parent Square app. I don't know if you're familiar with the Parent Square app.
I'm
Um,
familiar, but I've never had to use it, thank the
yeah,
Lord.
we use that, and it's good, but it gets a little overwhelming. It'll start off from an automated phone call from the school, then I'll
Yep.
get a text message, then I'll get a notification in the app, then I'll get an email, and
Hmm.
it's like, okay, this is a little much here, but so I can see where it can kind of get a little ahead of itself, where
Absolutely.
you can kind of get a little overwhelming and get annoying, essentially. But it's already there, and whether you realize it or not, and
Yeah.
sometimes this stuff's already been integrated. Another thing, which we probably already know, are these kind of symptom checker apps and these wearable devices. I think
Yeah.
this is sort of two bullet points on the outline provided, but I think they're pretty much one and the same because they both use the same. But the
Hmm.
Apple Watch, Fitbit, I mean, we know this is AI. If you didn't know it's AI,
Yeah.
surprise, that's like an AI app, and we're all doing all these wearables now because now we need to track our fitness 24/7. Um, I don't know if I really need to, but these do have a lot of benefits and everything. It can kind of
They
correct
do.
you a little bit if you kind of fall off track.
They do. And you and I were talking a little bit how, I know we're going to talk about data tracking at some point.
Hmm.
It does track your data. And when you do these wearable devices, you are giving up your data. So Apple will know what my blood pressure is when I use the Apple Watch. It'll
Hmm.
know It'll know my blood pressure. It'll know things. And I guess the question is, are you willing to give a little bit of that up for a more healthier lifestyle, give up a tiny bit of privacy for a healthier
Hmm.
lifestyle? I think for most people, the answer is yes, especially the older you get with age.
Yeah.
If my blood pressure through my Apple Watch becomes a matter of national security where everybody needs to know it, I think we live in a pretty boring yet safe country. So I'm not
Yeah.
exactly upset if that data gets out. Oh, look, the Browns are on. His blood pressure is boiling. Yes, everybody. Yes, that's
Yeah.
how it goes.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it could be, you know, too much of a privacy invasion. I think, blood pressure trends and everything like that. And yes, we're submitting, these kind of trends to a database and what have you.
Hmm.
But this also could help with medical research too, if they're not like attaching your
Yes.
name to it. Because if you're starting to look at, yeah, anything within a certain region or a certain age
So
group
like blood
or
pressures,
any types of stuff.
diabetics for who are over the age of
Hmm.
45.
Yeah.
That there you go. You could pull that data real quick,
Hmm.
pretty accurate,
Hmm.
and you could take a look at that. And
Yeah.
that could be long term beneficial for everybody. Now, is it just by giving up a little bit of your own data, that could be
Yeah.
used to help make things better for everybody. So that's
Yeah.
a positive of this.
Yeah, definitely. I think that could be a good thing because, now now like medical researchers can start identifying trends and everything.
Yes.
Like I know if there's like a certain blood pressure rise, we're staying on blood pressure because it's an easy one,
Hmm.
within like a certain region. And it's kind of like puzzling, like why is this region, seeing a lot of blood pressure? And then they zoom in, it's the city of Cleveland at 4 o'clock on a Sunday.
Yep.
So
Guaranteed.
yeah, okay. So yeah, that'll be
Yeah.
that right there. So I mean, it has its benefits. Obviously the privacy concerns, we're gonna get that later on.
Yeah.
But don't I would say don't start demonizing everything immediately until we get all the facts. I would never plant a microchip into my body, but I think this could be a good benefit
I
essentially.
agree with you. I mean, it's funny. We definitely agree because the microchip stuff is not happening to me. But
Hmm.
I am certainly not against a device that I can wear when I choose to wear it
Hmm.
and collect that data and somebody can take a look at it for me. I, I'm not against that.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to give up a little bit of privacy for the benefit of myself and the benefit of other people who are in the same boat I am.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
it's not it's not like they're getting into like your personal life, like what you and your wife are talking about before you go
Yeah.
to bed or what have you like that, or what your child's favorite school snack is or what
No,
YouTube might do or anything.
that's
So
what TikTok and your cell phone are doing. They're
yeah,
checking
yeah. Yeah,
that.
so that's a whole nother
That your Apple Watch
subject
is
like that.
not doing that, I don't think, or your
Yeah.
devices. We did say
But
there's also it's not just necessarily a watch. There's also a ring that we've seen.
I've heard
That's
of it. I've heard
yeah.
of it.
There's a couple of them out. I think it's a ring that you wear, and what's nice about that is somebody like me, I don't wear an Apple Watch. I don't like the idea of getting notifications, and that's more for a mental health
Hmm.
perspective than it is a actual health care thing. So I would be interested if there's rings out there. I would wear a ring where I can check it, my health benefits or my blood pressure and everything. When I choose to check it, I could check it. Um,
Yeah.
I don't like the idea of getting notifications. I
Hmm.
get too many throughout the day. I don't like them anymore.
Hmm.
And from a healthcare standpoint, I'd like something that's a little more basic than like a watch.
Yeah, definitely. But that kind of leads us, switching gears. That doesn't really lead us, but switching gears right now.
Hmm.
AI behind the scenes, segment two. What can AI be used for? And one of them, kind of an interesting one here. It actually makes sense is with X-rays, CT scans, MRIs, and everything.
Hmm. Yeah.
And AI can read that very quickly, where doctors will, take a little bit of time or whatever. And if something comes up on a CT scan or an MRI, the the training model that the AI uses can identify conditions and stuff like that very
Yes.
quickly, I might
Yes,
add.
it can. And I love this because this goes back to what you and I have been saying, using AI as a tool, not as the
Hmm.
expert. So now doctors or people in the medical industry can have an assistant with them that is highly trained in
Yes.
forgive me, I forgot the term. It's not an LLM. Is it a DLM? Where
Dedicated language model.
dedicated
Yes.
language model. So they can use something like that so that the AI is trained in radiology or
Hmm.
trained in something very specific so that it has that
Yeah.
knowledge and it can assist a doctor. That's what I like about this. We're talking about assisting, not doing the work, but perhaps it could catch
Yes.
something that a doctor couldn't catch and it can be uploaded, data can be
We're all
uploaded
human.
with the current trends too.
Yeah.
So if they're seeing current trends with a certain type of disease or something along those lines, they can upload that data and
Hmm.
say, look, this person was exposed to disease, in Minneapolis on such and such date based on what it
Hmm.
has. Um,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Then, like you said, if a doctor misses something, we're all human. We
yeah,
expect our doctors to be superhuman, and that I think that's kind of unfair. But it can spot something that they don't identify, and also do a diagnosis assistance, which I think is a good thing too, because it
yeah,
could
it's
run through all the readings, everything like that, and give a diagnosis for the doctor. Now, this is where the human touch, I think, comes in. Is
right.
it could provide, okay, this is what I found, and this is why I think it is. And the doctor can take a look at it, and it can sort of say, okay, yes, yes, but no. and you
Hmm.
can kind of because AI it's not perfect either. It's not going to give you the right answer every time. I've caught it a number of times, and
Oh yeah.
I've called Gemini, Chat GPT out. They're like, oh, okay, I'm sorry. It's like, yeah, you better be sorry. But
Yeah.
we're getting
Yeah.
ahead of ourselves. But no, like you said, this is a tool, and I'm glad you brought up the dedicated language models because I think this is a you know perfect use of a dedicated language model,
Agreed.
essentially.
Agree. It makes sense. You're
Yeah.
training it on medical information, very specific to the field of which the doctor or medical professional would be working in. And when
Hmm.
we talk about diagnoses, Brian, do you remember many years ago? Many of the younger audience members that we have probably don't remember this. But do you remember WebMD?
Oh yeah.
You
That
would go
that I
online. Yeah, I'm going to give a little
yeah.
recap for our listeners. I don't think it was AI, but it was definitely some type of a flow chart. So if you had something wrong with you, if something was off in your system, you would go to WebMD and you would type in your symptoms, and it would start asking you a series of questions, and then it would get to the point where it would give you a potential diagnosis. For
Hmm.
whatever reason, it seemed like your potential diagnosis was always cancer, and that you needed to see a doctor immediately.
Yeah, I do
I mean, it
remember a few
turned
times.
yeah, a runny nose was, oh, you might have nostril cancer. You need to see a doctor immediately.
Yeah,
Uh,
and that's kind of where WebMD. I think that was like the early adaptation of AI in the medical field.
yeah, I think it
Um,
was more of a flow chart, though. I don't.
it
I-
AI does use flowcharts in their
okay,
conclusions. They do use flowcharts. So it is a form like kind of like a bare bones like an abacus of AI. I would kind of metaphorically explain it.
okay,
So that's kind of where it came in, and it was very erroneous. You could like kind of look up a rash. In reality, you just need a very specific kind of ointment that you can buy at any drugstore. But you could like go onto WebMD and you need to get your arm amputated.
right.
So
And
that's
that
kind of
I f- I feel like we've gotten away from that. Now the AI tool
yeah,
would be a lot more accurate with what
yeah,
we have. And you know what's funny? I haven't been on WebMD in a while. I don't even know if it still exists.
yeah. I'm not sure either. I haven't been on there in a while. I think because once I started like getting a diagnosis, and I was like kind of like, oh my gosh, no, I'm not going to die anytime soon. I think I did it because when I was younger, I wasn't making a whole heap of money, and I tried to avoid going to a doctor to avoid that expense. But
Right.
yeah, it's. I mean, I can't like knock him too much because it did have some doctors behind it, but yeah, getting sort of the diagnosis was a very bad thing.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, before WebMD like sends lawyers send us a letter or anything like that, it is very good for information. It can provide you a lot of good information on there.
It can. And I
But
hope the lawyers
diagnosis
wouldn't
not
do
good.
that because people listening to this are going to click to see if WebMD is still there. So it's going to get a bunch of hits anyway.
Yeah,
So
yeah. No, it's still there. I did a little
you did a
search
little
off
side.
there. Yes,
Yeah,
yes, I
it's
did.
there. All
But
right. That's good news.
so yes, for information, just like as a basic information, it's a good resource. Don't use it to diagnose yourself. Go to your doctor,
Yeah.
please, because that's
Yeah.
a much better thing. But yeah, and another thing, kind of, it's being used for. This is sort of new, and it's medication development, where it
Right.
kind of comes up with new meds,
I
which I
saw
think
that in the
is a
outline. That was
yeah.
interesting to me.
Yes. So, yeah, the FDA, I'm looking at one of the articles. I did ask Claude afterwards to provide us with some
Hmm.
sources, specifically for medical journals. I was only interested in medical journal sources, um, because I like to keep my sources good, as anybody should. But yeah, there's FDA is starting to approve machine learning algorithms for everything. So that's where I think this could come up very good. Sort of develop,
Hmm.
different kind of medications and medicines, vaccines, and everything. It could be a tool to use it to develop it quicker or get them quicker to market. But I think, ultimately you still have to do the medical trials before you actually like put this out in the market, but it can help speed up the development. And I know there's going to be a lot of people that are afraid of, oh, it's coming along so fast. It's like medicines are developed faster now because we know so much more than we did when we first started like developing all these
Yes.
things.
And you and I were talking beforehand how we know that AI has been able to speed up research in particular of how
Hmm.
food works within our systems because it's able to translate foreign studies with studies in English and it's able to connect dots here and there. And as a
Hmm.
result, we now know a little bit more about the food that we eat than we ever did before in terms of health benefits. I'm assuming that's the same thing with what's going on here with this drug discovery. It's going to be
Hmm.
the AI is able to connect the dots much faster than humans are, or even a general computer is. It's able to connect those things and make the drug process procedure a little more quicker, obviously, but hopefully better and less mistakes. And hopefully that drives down costs as a result of using
Hmm.
AI. I'm sure that, I mean, there's a whole philosophical thing about costs and drugs, anyways, but with that being
Yeah.
said, I'm hopeful that something like this would help because not as much time would have been put into the research that'll go into
Hmm.
discovering these new drugs, and that is a little bit of an exciting thing. And I think that's happening
Yeah.
in AI and in many other things other than healthcare.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think like one of the cost reduction um, aspects that could come of it is there's a lot of failed tests within when you're doing this stuff. And this is not a knock against any scientist because if you ever try to do like, testing on, especially on something like a medication, like you have to test and test and test and test. And
mhm.
you could think one thing starting and you run like you spend massive amounts of money running this test and then you find out, okay, this is a complete failure, and all that money you spent on this one testing this one branch is now like basically wasted money,
Yeah.
and that's like some of the hidden cost of this. And this is not me knocking any like scientists or pharmacists or anything. Well, actually, not pharmacists, but like any sort of scientist in the development of the drug. It's not me knocking them. This is just the process you have to go through in order to prove these things. And
Yes.
I think like this could cut down on, you know, basically the wrong barking up the wrong tree. Like you can start barking, it can guide you to start barking up the right trees. So
Yeah.
that's kind of like one of those hidden costs I think that this could possibly prevent.
Agreed. I think there's more positives. Most of the things we've talked about tonight so far, I
Mm,
feel like there's a little more positives than there is negatives. So I
yes.
guess we should probably move into segment three, where we talk about the reality checks of what's going on with
Yes.
AI in
Hmm.
healthcare. And the
Hmm.
first one is something you and I have touched upon many times. I think we've had this is episode 20, and I think we've touched upon this at least in 50% of our podcast,
At
and that is
least. At least.
privacy and data security concerns. They're
Hmm.
always there when it comes to AI.
Oh, they're there in the age of computers,
Yeah,
in general, and like privacy is, it's a big thing. And I can see where some people can kind of overreach a little bit when they're trying to get the data, when they're trying to
hmm,
get like personal information and everything. I know I don't want it to get too personal. Like data security, if you start putting like too much personal data on a server for people that are doing research, um, now people are like trying to hack that, and we got to start building firewalls and everything. And now
right.
people are using AI to get past firewalls, and then we got to develop AI to prevent their AI from getting past
Yes,
firewalls.
yes.
So that could create a lot of issues right there. But I think like selecting what data that they use for this research. Like obviously, I think names should be taken out of it.
Yes,
Names
they shouldn't call
obviously
us Adam and Brian. They should say males over
patient,
the age of 40. Caucasian descent if you need to. Yeah, that
yeah, like
they're not gonna. Yeah,
patient 92X4-39 or whatever. And you should
right.
just be referred to as that basically. So I think if you keep names out of it and like to specific location and everything, that could really ease a lot of privacy concerns.
I think so. And
And
what's interesting is several of the examples we've used tonight. You really need our permission to get the
mhm,
data, but also you need us to follow through on our end, such as wearing the devices.
yeah.
So this is not like when you use some of the AI tools that we've mentioned that you got to be careful because it takes your data and your privacy. Like,
Hmm.
it's a little different with these healthcare and these health items that we've discussed tonight.
Yeah.
If we don't want them to have the data, we simply don't wear some of the devices or don't turn it over or don't go or follow
Hmm.
through with what we need to. So,
Yeah.
but there is a little bit of that philosophical question that we asked earlier. Are you willing to give up a little privacy knowing it could benefit your personal health long term?
Yeah.
I
And
do think most people would say yes to that. I know I would.
yeah,
Uh,
and also the good of the village too, so to say. Like everybody has
Correct.
their village where they're at. I think that could go a long way. So, privacy, I would say keep names out of it, like as like anything you absolutely possibly can, if you're
Hmm.
collecting data for research or whatever. I think
Right.
that's the big one right there, if you keep it out of it. Another one point that they come out in bias in AI systems and healthcare disparities. Now, they have kind of a personal, well, not personal, but something that we discussed. I was taking, I think I was open about it. I took an AI coding boot camp, and we were talking about
Hmm.
healthcare and everything, and how you can create an unintentional bias in your model and what have you. There was research when they were trying to disperse government funding, grants and what have you for medical um,
Oh,
grants and what have you. And what they started doing was, okay, what areas are spending the most money getting healthcare, and that was sort of their idea. Oh, if this area is spending much more money, they need more help and what have you. Or if this area is spending less money, they don't need too much or what have you. So here's where the problem came in. One area was very affluent, very wealthy and everything like
hmm,
that, and they could go to those 3, 4 follow-up visits for a cold or what have you. And the doctors in those areas can also charge more because they can, you know,
right.
capitalism. That's what you're going to do.
Yeah.
And the other area was, less wealthy, even impoverished, and they would go to free clinics, or some of them would only go to one at all, or some of them would go to WebMD. And they started like, okay, we're going to give more grants because this area needs more help because they're like people are spending like crazy on
Spending
healthcare,
more money. Yeah.
which and in that sort of bias right there, it's like no, they don't need the help. So this is kind of where you got to be really careful with that.
I agree because, and then what's really funny about that bias, what
Hmm.
I'm not with the example you gave, which is a great example because it's easy to understand how it can make that mistake.
Yeah,
I would say as a person on the outside looking in macro version of that, that was a human error
yeah,
using the spending as the monitoring
yeah.
of the
I don't
data.
think it was. I'm not going to say it's the
And
only thing that they used,
correct. But in
but
this
they
case,
did
you
use
know
it.
what I mean? Probably too much of a heavy emphasis on that without those
Hmm.
considerations of free clinics, mobile
Yeah,
units that can do mobile dentistry, things like that.
yeah.
Um, but that does make it tricky because we as humans are programming the AI, and there could
Hmm.
very well be an accidental bias in there with every good intention possible.
Yeah, yeah,
But
definitely.
if you miss something or don't think of something when you're doing these big projects like that, it becomes realistic that there's going to be some type of bias or a mistake.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's where, training those models is a big thing. And I
Yeah.
think essentially, especially with something like this, I know everyone's trying to get that next model out there, get that next model, like keep it going, keep it going.
Hmm.
Slow down and get it right, I would say.
Yeah.
Like we're at a point right now where, AI is just like booming and everything. Everyone's building new data centers everywhere. I think we need to slow down and get it right.
Yeah.
If we're going to adapt it. And I think with the bias right here, going back to how it could, create a major bias in healthcare, it's very possible that, nobody really thought about that example that I gave. Be like, oh, maybe there's more to it than, just the spending and what have you.
Yeah.
So,
Could very well be. So next bullet point, because we're getting close to the end already.
hmm.
But the human element. What
Yeah.
doctors still do better? Um, I will tell you, if you get a good doctor with their bedside manner,
Hmm.
it means the world to you. When you
Yeah.
have a doctor who's honest with you, who will,
Hmm.
say the things that are uncomfortable, but also will say the things that in a positive manner. I don't think
Yeah.
AI can do that.
No,
It
AI
can't.
doesn't have feelings. If you try to give AI feelings, you're um
You're
going
gonna mess
down
up.
a hole that
It's
you
not
don't
gonna
want to
go
go to.
well.
Yeah,
No.
like AI is information. It should only be used for information only.
Right.
Any sort of like feeling or anything like that. I know this kind of contradicts our mental health episode a little bit. But there's some there's some aspect where we said we can use it for mental health in some good cases, but there's a lot of bad to it too. But like you said,
Yeah.
the bedside manner, a good doctor learns that over time,
They do. They do.
essentially.
Some have some very good empathy, but also there's also a reality of it. I don't envy doctors sometimes. I mean, I envy their
Hmm.
salaries, but I don't envy them sometimes because there are moments where you need to take the humanity out of yourself,
Yeah.
and that's not an easy thing to do. And I understand why doctors need to do that sometimes. And you can't put humanity in AI, and you can't
Hmm.
take humanity out of it if you try to put it in there,
Yeah.
and it's just not gonna go well. Um,
Yeah.
so
And yeah, I think doctors definitely need to have a major hand in any of these models that are going to get trained for healthcare.
yes,
I think they absolutely need that, and that's where that's where responsibly training a model comes into play. And they could we talk about AI catching things that the human eye couldn't. The human brain could conclude something that the AI just couldn't.
right,
The AI caught this, that, and the other that the human didn't, but they could all ultimately draw the wrong conclusion. Whereas the doctor can look at it and be like, oh, you did catch that, but your conclusion is wrong. So this is
right,
where the give and take goes with the AI and the human
yeah,
doctor.
I agree. I still think the human brain, when it comes to thinking outside the box and creativity, I don't think AI can touch it right now. I think AI
No.
can help us create things,
Hmm.
but I don't think it could think outside the box, such as if there's a patient admitted to the ER. And
Hmm.
for whatever reason, they're looking at an x-ray and a doctor looks at it and knows right away the spleen's not in the right place.
Hmm.
I'm not sure right now an AI tool would be able to figure that out. Maybe they would. That'd be awesome. But that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. Like the doctors could think outside the box, going, "Oh, look, this organ's not in the place it's supposed to be at the moment." And I
Yeah.
use that reference because I very much remember an episode of ER where I believe that actually happened. Thursday nights at 10 o'clock when we were kids.
Yeah, I'm not going to say that's the most accurate show, but I don't know.
It's probably not, but you know what?
I
I
haven't really
remember it
tested it.
going, "Wow, that can happen."
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, that's yeah, always fun. I think the human element can definitely create that a lot better. And I think the final point, patient consent. When is AI being used? I think
Yeah,
openness about it is a good thing. However, I can see where it could create some unnecessary panic. Um, like you're going to a new doctor, you just moved to town, and someone's biased against AI, and they found out, oh, the doctor uses AI. Oh, that must mean they're a terrible doctor, or what have you. Or they don't know what they're doing. I think that
right.
could, I think that does have the potential to um, create sort of a little unnecessary animosity.
I think so, but I think that chunk of the pie is dying down.
Yeah.
I think more people like us, laymen's, are
Hmm.
learning that AI can help us be better at our craft. And
Hmm.
I love the idea of the open transparency with AI. If a doctor said, I'm going to take a look at what you got, I'm going to also put it in my little system here to see what it recommends.
Hmm.
Two minds are better than one. So you know what? I'm okay with it, but I feel like you and I also grew up in an era where technology was experimental and
Hmm.
constantly transforming. The
Hmm.
older generation, not as much. This younger generation, unbelievable the amount of
Yeah.
technology they've seen. So I do feel if we're transparent about AI use, the better off we are with AI, the better off we are in industry. Saying, yeah,
Hmm.
we're using it, and I think that would go a long way to help patients start to trust AI as a tool to assist in the healthcare industry.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. I think you know, openness about it. I think, transparency is something that we've express, what are you
Yes.
using AI for? That's a very good to have the transparency. And, like I said, it could create some unintended animosity or kind of suspicion or what have you. But I almost feel like people who would do that would like hate doctors anyways, because there is like that
Right.
percentage of people that just despises doctors in any way,
Yeah.
shape, or form.
This is where I
So
make a joke. They're usually the ones that live till they're in their 90s.
yeah,
Just,
yeah, it's
just
interesting.
throwing that out there.
Yeah, definitely. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think I think clarity. What was? Oh my gosh, the word is escaping me.
Transparency.
Transparency. Yes, being transparent with how you use AI is going to go a long way to becoming accepted. Eventually, it's just going to be absolutely accepted because everything's going to have AI.
Hmm.
But that's going to come
That's
a
just the
long
way it's
way.
going to be. Yeah.
Exactly. But anyway, wrapping up, key takeaways. I personally, I think there's a lot of positives to it. I think,
Yes.
we need to keep an open mind about it. It could do a lot of analysis assistance for the doctors and everything. It could, track a lot of data, and I know people get freaked out about the data, but if done responsibly, and I'm calling on all the tech companies to do this responsibly, I think there's a lot of positives where we could, have more personalized healthcare.
Yeah. Overall, big takeaway. I think there's more positives than negatives here. I
Hmm.
really do, without question. And I think my big takeaway is what I've said. I think I've said it twice already, so I'll say it one third time. Personally, I'm willing to give up a little of my privacy if it benefits my health and possibly the health of others long term. I don't have
Hmm.
a problem with that. I am okay with that. And um, it's a good thing. And so
Yeah.
I think that this healthcare, I'm kind of glad Claude took us down this path because this is a
Hmm.
little tougher for you and I to talk about because this is not our industry.
Yeah,
We
definitely.
are patients. We are not experts in healthcare.
Yeah,
So
definitely. And like what it actually did was it brought a lot of topics in there that I would have struggled to think about. But
right,
it's something that okay, yeah, this provokes a good thought. And we're not in the health industry, neither one of us are.
right.
And it brought something to us. And you know what? This is something that we feel is worth talking about.
We do.
So, I think we're doing a lot of positives with AI, and as the layman's, as we're trying to bring this into the forefront, yeah, I think Claude did a good job, and I think we got a lot of good talking points out of here, out of this. But final point, I think encourage everyone to ask a doctor like, what AI tools are you using, just to kind
Oh,
of
I like that.
ask
Yeah,
them to see that. And yeah, I think that's a good idea. Just be like, what do you use AI for? What are your opinions on AI? And the doctor will, give you an honest opinion. Some doctors, I know there's going to be some purists out there who will curse it till their grave.
I think that's
But
every industry.
yeah, I think I deal with it constantly. Education industry, I'm sure you deal with a lot of teachers that refuse to not use the chalkboard anymore.
I have
But
not seen a chalkboard in a long, long time.
yes, yes, but no, I think there's like everything. But yeah, I think doctors can definitely be open with their patients on what exactly they use AI for, and maybe just asking them and having that open conversation and communication will ease a lot of concerns, I'd say.
Agreed. Agreed.
Agreed. But yeah, I think that about wraps it up.
Mhm.
I had a good time talking about this. Thank you for Claude for giving us a good conversation piece this evening. And I'd like to thank everybody for taking time out of their day to listen to us. My name is Brian,
And I'm Adam.
and thank you for listening to the Layman's AI, and we'll see you next time.